Phil Mickelson wasn't standing behind the 18th green when his guy finally broke through. He wasn't there for the handshake, the hug, or the trophy lift. There was no photo of the two of them together, no walk down the fairway side by side, none of the moments you'd expect after a captain personally builds a golf career from scratch and then watches it pay off in real time. But later that night, hundreds of miles away from Indianapolis, his phone buzzed with a text from the young man he'd bet on a year earlier. And that one quiet message ends up saying more about this entire story than almost anything that actually happened out on the golf course all week long. 22-year-old Michael La Sasso just closed out a bogey-free final round of 65 to win LIV Golf Indianapolis, his very first title as a professional golfer. On paper, that's already a massive moment for any young player chasing his first win at the highest level. But underneath the scorecard, there's a much bigger, much more emotional storyline running through the entire week, because without Phil Mickelson picking up a phone in January, La Sasso probably isn't even standing on that fairway in the first place, let alone walking off it as a champion. When reporters asked him afterward if it felt bittersweet celebrating without his captain physically there, La Sasso shut that idea down almost instantly. He explained that Mickelson had reached out the night before, told him he'd been watching every shot, and said it was one of the most fun stretches he'd experienced in a long time. La Sasso didn't hold back his own gratitude either. He called Mickelson an absolute legend of the game and said he could never fully repay everything Mickelson had done for him over the past year, from the recruitment pitch all the way through to that late-night message. That gratitude isn't just a polite post-game soundbite either. Consider where La Sasso stood coming into the week. He had exactly one top 30 finish all season, one in a year that had mostly gone sideways. Yet somehow he grabbed a share of the lead starting Friday and simply refused to let it go, holding steady through the middle rounds while the leaderboard shuffled around him. Then Sunday brought real pressure. Jon Rahm caught fire and posted a scorching final round 63, the kind of number that usually buries a young leader still chasing his first win. La Sasso answered anyway, playing clean, mistake-free golf under real heat, finishing 18 under par, one shot clear of the field, and becoming the youngest champion in LIV golf short history. Now, rewind to how any of this even got started, because the backstory matters just as much as the finish. La Sasso wasn't some unknown prospect scraping his way onto a roster hoping for a shot. He came in as the reigning NCAA individual champion out of Ole Miss, ranked second nationally in the PGA Tour University class of 2026, trailing only Virginia's Ben James and sitting comfortably ahead of Texas standout Christian Mass. He'd already teed it up in 6 PGA Tour events as an amateur, gaining real experience against real fields. Every single signal pointed toward the traditional route: turn pro, chase status the conventional way, and slowly climbed the PGA Tour ladder like generations of golfers before him. Then Phil Mickelson stepped in personally and changed all of that. In January 2026, he recruited La Sasso directly to join his team, HY Flyers GC, and convinced him to turn professional immediately instead of waiting. That decision came with a real, tangible sacrifice attached to it. La Sasso actually gave up the Masters exemption that came bundled with his NCAA title, a trade almost no young golfer would ever seriously consider making, let alone actually go through with. Mickelson didn't just offer a roster spot and a paycheck either. He talked about La Sasso publicly, repeatedly calling him one of the most electric young talents in the sport, praising his raw power off the tee, his feel around the greens, and his work ethic as the exact reasons he'd elevate the whole HY Flyers team. The contract itself was a genuine multi-year deal, loaded with 14 guaranteed starts and undisclosed guaranteed money on top of that, the kind of financial security a college golfer simply cannot find by turning pro on the PGA Tour instead. Here's the twist, though, and it's a significant one. Once the season actually began, that hands-on mentorship mostly disappeared from view. Mickelson played just a single event the entire year, stepping away to handle a private family health situation while also facing separate misconduct allegations that pulled attention firmly away from the golf course. Meanwhile, La Sasso spent most of the season buried outside the top 30 in the overall standings, at one stretch even sitting inside the league's relegation zone, fighting just to keep his card secure. Without his captain physically around week to week, he leaned heavily on teammate Brandon Steele to help him find his footing and navigate a season that wasn't unfolding anywhere close to plan. So this win isn't just a feel-good storyline sitting on its own. It's landing at a genuinely fragile moment for the entire league around him. LIV's planned team championship in Michigan got scrapped altogether, which quietly turned Indianapolis into the real, unofficial season finale, whether anyone actually planned it that way or not. And the uncertainty runs deeper than just one cancelled event. LIV announced back in August that it had reached a board-approved agreement with a new lead investor to help fund the league from 2027 all the way through 2030. That sounds promising on the surface, something stable to build a career around. But that deal still hasn't been finalized, and major details remain completely unclear, including who the investor actually is, what the financing terms actually look like, and what player commitment conditions might come attached once ink finally hits paper. Which puts La Sasso in a genuinely strange spot despite the trophy sitting in his hands right now. His multi-year contract is only worth what the league itself ends up being worth down the road. If LIV Golf stabilizes and that investment closes the way it's supposed to, this one becomes the launching point of a real, sustained breakout career for a 22-year-old with obvious talent. If it doesn't close, though, his most realistic path back into competitive golf likely runs through the Asian Tour or the DP World Tour, both of which now sit aligned with the PGA Tour under a newly formed partnership structure. Right now, La Sasso doesn't even know for certain when he tees it up next. The schedule, the league's long-term future, the entire structure sitting around his young career still feels genuinely unsettled, hanging on a deal that hasn't even been finalized yet. There's no guaranteed next tournament to point to, no clear runway laid out in front of him the way there usually is for a fresh champion. But one thing became completely clear after Indianapolis, and it has nothing to do with contracts or investors. Whatever happens from here, whatever direction his career eventually ends up taking, Michael La Sasso knows exactly who put him in position to get there in the first place. And judging by that short text sent the night before, it sounds like Phil Mickelson knows exactly what he watched unfold too, even from hundreds of miles away, even without a trophy handoff of his own to be part of.